Don, I'm sure you obviously saw this kid a lot with all the kids that you had at BC. How would you assess his year? And he didn't maybe have the points that people expected him to have this year?
I think that's a little unfair in terms of players going in as freshmen. If you look back at James's track record, he's been a prolific point producer. If you had seen him in the World Juniors, again, against his peer group, was on the upper echelon of production side of things. There's been a few players, you're right, that have, gone into college hockey at that age and done, better overall, but there's no shame in the type of year he had, playing on the top line, one of the top teams in the country. So there's no concern on our part in terms of thinking he took a step back from a production standpoint. He'll be perfectly fine moving forward, and that's why we drafted him. We feel he's a guy that can help generate offensively and continue to round out his game, 200-foot game, but wants to play in every situation, has produced at every level that he's been at.
There was times this year that you would have thought that there was no chance he'd get to you. At what point did you realize this was a possibility and you're pretty excited about that possibility, given your needs down the middle?
Well, again, we were in it to make sure we took what we thought was the most impactful player. And being in the top 7 of the draft for the first time in a long time, we felt we were going to get an opportunity to do that. There's no real script in where players end up going, other than probably Matthew Shaffer was pretty much anointed as despite missing a heck of a lot of time. The rest of it is sometimes team driven. Some teams, I don't think anybody picking in the top necessarily just targets positional needs. Everybody's looking for the absolute best player you can draft, and generally pretty happy. We're very happy that James was there, and welcome to the Boston Bruins.
And as you're watching the draft progress, were you kind of hoping that he'd get to you?
Again, we don't control what other teams are going to do. Obviously, conversations about moving up, more about moving back, just in case a player that we felt we may be able to take advantage of a similar player, a similar situation, and have more draft capital. And we had some opportunities, but we just felt that when James was there, that we had to make the selection and wanted to make the selection.
Do you think that James is maybe NHL ready now or soon? And do you see any way that he could end up on the team this season, whether or not it be to start or after his college season ends?
One step at a time. I think that it's appropriate for him to enjoy with his 50 family members that were in LA and enjoy what's been a long process for him with all these kids. It's a tremendous amount of excitement. He will come right back and join us for development camp. We will just incrementally have discussions about where he's at. There will be no hurry to try and fast track James. I'd say that about every player. If somewhere between now and then that changes and we feel differently about it as we're evaluating, we may make that decision. I know he'd like to play right away. I'm sure every guy that was drafted tonight thinks they might be able to play in the National Hockey League, but we'll allow that to take a more natural course and make the right decision for James and the organization.
Don, James told us he's already put on some weight this offseason. Were there any concerns about his size for you guys?
No, I mean, he's performed at the size he's at against his peer groups at the highest level. College, there was no limitations in terms of what he can do. Now, you're going to have to adjust playing against the top players in the National Hockey League and be able to withstand the rigors of an 82-game schedule. It's 84 now, shortly, and moving into the playoffs. That's an adjustment for every young player. So he'll have to go through that and put the work in to make sure he understands what it's going to require. He's one player that from a standpoint of wanting to be on the ice all the time, we may have to divvy that up a little bit and get him into the strength phase of what's required to play and excel against the best players in the league.
Don, BC's going to lose they've already lost a lot of players from this past season. So what do you think that will mean for James to next year? Perhaps more responsibility, more of an onus to take charge?
Yeah, I think the opportunity, obviously he played the top line with 2 elite players. He'll look to probably generate a little bit more and maybe have a shoot-first mentality at times. You get a chance to play with Brian Leonard, who can, really, really fire a puck, chances are especially as a young player, you're going to look to make sure he has the puck in his hands at the right times. He does a really good job of that in distributing. But they have lost some players. It's a good opportunity for several of our guys that are at that university to take that step, and I think James will be right at the front of the line. He'll have the hard matchups again against the other top lines throughout college hockey, and it's a good test for him.
Don, just your thoughts on the teams not being on draft site this year for the first time now that you've been through the first round.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little disjointed from the sense of the feel of the draft floor and such. I don't think the communication was any different. We've all gotten pretty accustomed to be able to message each other and call each other, so I don't think there were any limitations in that regard. You still saw trades happen. I think things are likely teed up for the next, for tomorrow as well. So, to be determined in terms of how we move forward and make the best decision for the league. Obviously there's a lot of excitement in terms of the draft itself, the players being there, being celebrated with their families. So I'm sure that they'll peel it back a little bit and make what they think is the best decision to move forward for everybody.
Does this pick today change your approach tomorrow in terms of maybe dealing picks or different selection of player?
No, ultimately it shouldn't. Again, we're trying to find the best players that we possibly can. You saw 3 goalies go in the first round. Sometimes that run happens. So, we're well positioned with the volume we have in the upper part now, and that was important to us. I mean, obviously we had a major step back in the decision we made at the deadline, and tomorrow will be part of that and try and take advantage of it. Will we move them to supplement our roster? Yeah, I was honest in looking at some of those things and the opportunity to do that, so I'll continue to do it through tomorrow as well.
There were a few centers available at your spot at number 7, and a lot of them considered to be pretty good prospects as well. What made James stand out for you there?
Well, again, I think he's excelled at against his peer group every opportunity he's had. His production, the program is amongst the best that's ever played. There's been some pretty special players that have gone through there. He went into college hockey, played on the top line. We just, you believe in the player and what he's done. They won a gold medal in the World Juniors against the best players at his age group, all across the world. So, and he was one of the top players for his team. He's a competitive, really, really competitive young player, and he wants to be the best player he can possibly be. Those are all great qualities to have, and we'll try and fill in the gaps for him.
I don't want to put you on the spot here in terms of putting a direct comparison to him, but is there anybody that you see, NHL players in James's game and some skill sets that he has that reminds you of other players?
Well, you're right. It is unfair, and we don't want to ever just cast it with one particular player. Obviously, there's been a lot of great players that have gone through the program that I think he has attributes, and similarities, but he hasn't done it at the NHL level. So it's still a forecasting job for all of us to project. We just project him as a talented player who's highly competitive and able to play, with better players as well, be it in distribute. And then, to my point earlier, I do believe that he'll probably have a little more of a scoring mentality at Boston College, because I think they have to drive offense a little bit throughout their lineup, depth-wise, as opposed to just being led by a top-heavy group the previous 2 years, and he'll be a big part of that. So I don't really want to go, to a direct line. But again, there's been several people at the program in particular that I think that he has a lot of qualities that he'll share.
Do you think he has the upside of a top-line guy?
Well, we hope so, yeah. I mean, he's been that way his whole life, in terms of what he's done. So we just hope the natural progression is he'll be able to do it at the NHL level. Now, again, it's a tough league. You find out that when you get in, you realize that you're in a much deeper pool of players, and he'll have his own challenges. But I think he's driven to be that top player and want to be a difference maker.